We're planting tomato plants today on pots and trowels, and that's brought to you with the support of Cobra Garden and King Seeds. Hello and welcome to Pots and Trowels. Well, in the greenhouse at the moment I'm going to be planting some tomato plants. Here we are now, third week in April. This isn't heated, but it gets quite warm when the sun's shining and it will keep a little bit of frost off. So tomatoes in a cold greenhouse are fine at this time of the year. So what we're going to plant is some that we started off a little bit earlier. The other crop we've got here have only just been pricked out a week or so ago. So these are going to be another couple of weeks and then they'll be planted as well. But just a very quick update on the greenhouse. We've been using it now. This is the second season since we've been here, but we just had a soil floor with some black landscape fabric on it and it looked a bit messy, to be fair. So I needed to make it look a little bit smarter. So I have decided to put some paving down. So we've put some stone paving down. There's going to be a path here which you can see. We've got a gravel area in the centre which we can stand citrus on and pots of aubergines and peppers and various things. Down this side it will permanently have benching. So we've got the propagation here with soil warming cable so we can do seedlings and cuttings on this little piece, and that just gives off a tiny bit of heat in here as well, and then the bench for growing other plants on. We've also used some old quarry tiles. They were just recycled. They were outside in the garden, so we wanted to incorporate those. And then down this side, this is just a temporary bench which will be taken out. And in this area here, I've only literally finished the paving a couple of days ago. I'll cut the black fabric out and we'll add some really good soil to there. So that will be a soil border, again, for growing tomatoes and cucumbers and that type of thing. But we're going to make a start with the first of the tomatoes. More will go in there at a later date. And this is a system that I've been using now for a few years. I've had this probably 10 years, if not more. And it's a very simple self-watering system. It's essentially a reservoir in this trough with a lid on it. And then we have 4 pots that go on it. And it's got a wick that wicks the water up into it. And I've grown cucumbers, peppers and tomatoes really successfully this way for a number of years. And the great thing about it is, if you are away from the greenhouse for 2 or 3 days and you can't get anybody to water, they just get on with it. And the reservoir will keep these plants going for about 10 days, I find. So that's really, really good. You can forget about the watering. So I've filled 3 pots ready. I've got the 4th one here just to show you. And basically it's just a standard pot, but you get a piece of wick. And this is a piece of capillary matting. And what we need to do is to thread that through the hole at the bottom like this, like that. So we've got some of the wick inside here. So that is going to supply some moisture to our compost when it's in there. And then this piece here, it's going to go through that hole there. So it's easy just to fold it up and feed that through the hole so that that will go down into the water. Just give it a little pull. So we can see there that we've got, if Jill can, I don't know if you can see inside the pot, but we've got about half the wick inside there and the rest has gone down into the trough. And then I've got my compost here. So this is a compost mix that I've got here, a nice friable one. And I'm just going to put in the compost like that. I think these pots hold probably about 10-12 litres. I've never measured it, but it's about that size, which is more than adequate. And what we've got to do is not push this wick down. I'm going to push it to one side, but we're not going to completely flatten it because we need that to bring moisture up into the compost. So I just fill that round like that. And then what I'm going to do is get my tomatoes, which are here. So first batch of tomatoes we've got. All right, nice strong tomatoes, and perfect time for planting tomatoes is when the first flower buds or the first truss is just starting to develop. And there it is. We can just see that this This is a variety called Tigerella, which is a lovely tomato. It's going to be a straight upright one, need to side shoot it. And it's got lovely red tomatoes with an orangey stripe on them. Really, really tasty. So that's a good tomato plant. We don't want them to be too tall and leggy. These have been grown fairly tough without heat in here. So we've got stocky plants. And if they go a slightly sort of dark greeny bluey tinge, don't worry, that's a good sign that they're tough plants. What I'm going to do, it's got some little side shoots already growing on there, so I'm going to take those off because the idea is we're going to train these to be a single stem. So finger and thumb and just pull them out like that, so they come out very easily. If we don't take those side shoots out, we get a big bushy plant, and we don't want that. So there we go. And then out of the pot, it's got a lovely root system there, okay? So there we go, and I'm going to plant this, and we can see as I dig down into there, that's where that capillary matting is. So it's going to be in contact, and I'm going to put that in. Now, it doesn't matter with tomatoes if you plant a little bit deep. In fact, it's a good idea. If they're a little bit tall and leggy, just go a few inches deeper because they will produce roots from this stem. So you'll finish up with a bigger root system, and then we can just firm the compost very lightly, just top it up. This compost will settle. This is a peat-free compost, and I find it does settle faster than the old peat-based compost. So later on in the season, I'll probably just top that up again. Just only a very light firm, and that is it. It's as simple as that. Now, if I'm using this watering kit, if you're just doing them in pots, it's exactly the same, but you won't have the wick in there. And then what I need to do, two things. One is to then, there's no water in this, so I'm going to top that up, and it holds about 4 watering cans. So, but you get the idea. So we're going to top the reservoir up like that. So that will then start wicking water up that capillary matting and dampen the compost. But that takes a little while, and I will fill that to the top. And it's got a hole there as an overflow, so you can't overfill it. But then just to settle that in, initially, I'm just going to give that a drink like that. So this is the first water this way, and that will soak down. So that will make sure that the compost is nice and moist in there until the water starts wicking up. And then we just let it grow, and they establish really quickly this way. When it comes to feeding, because as soon as this flower opens and we can see the yellow flower, that's when we start to give it some feed. A high potash tomato feed is what we give it. You can either feed once a week through the top, or what I've done in the past is actually mix my liquid feed and put it into the reservoir at the bottom at about 1/3 strength, so it's feeding continually. So a much diluted liquid feed can be put in there, but at the moment what I'm going to do is just feed once a week through the top when it starts to flower. And the final thing to do is, these are going to be tall tomato plants, grow to 5 or 6 feet tall, so they're going to need some support. So I will push a cane down so that as it grows I can tie it to it, but we'll look at that at a later date. So if you've grown your own tomatoes, or you can get some from a nursery or a garden centre, and you've got a cold greenhouse, now is the time when you can start to put them up and look forward to delicious homegrown tomatoes later this summer. Well, thank you for watching Pots and Trowels, and don't forget all the videos that we've done can be found on YouTube, where of course you can subscribe for free. And don't forget also our podcast we release every Sunday morning. So until next time, bye for now.